Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name's James, and I am trying my hand at a little bit of amateur YouTubing. I had been thinking about doing this for a while, maybe just, trying it, seeing how I like it. I really like to watch DZ, Simo, Team APS, and Davinator1212, and a couple of the other people. I really like the videos they produce, and I've been thinking about doing some of this myself just a little bit. And then I posted on Wednesday on the TCG for Hire Facebook page, TCG Duelist for Hire Facebook page, that I had gotten to King of Games in Duel Links this month with a deck for hire. And someone had commented, hey, what's the list? And I put it on there. And then actually a couple other people, I think 4 other people, private messaged me and said, hey, would you mind doing a deck profile? So I said, sure, because I had been thinking about this already, and I said, hey, why not? So this is, like I said, this is my first attempt. Let me know what you guys think. I don't think I'm going to be doing a weekly video or anything like that, but I'm just going to post videos when I think of something to post or, whatever. So just let me know what you guys think. Tell me if you have any questions or comments. And without further ado, let's just jump right in. So obviously the first card on this list is going to be Beat. Beat comes from, just like all the for hire monsters, come from Clash of Wings. It's a mini box, so it's not too terribly hard to get them. It's just kind of expensive. This is an expensive list, unfortunately. Beat is a super rare. There's only one of them in the set, so you're going to have to... What I had to do was I went through the entire... There's 80 packs in the set. I went through the entire set before I got my first Beat. You pay the $500 to get 10 packs. I did that 8 times to get 80 packs before I finally got Beat. I think I got Beat in the very last pack. And then when I reset the box, I got Beat the very first time I did that. So within 90 packs, I got 2 Beats. So I reset the box again, tried for one more Beat, and I think I got him after 5. So I think it took me 14 buying 10 packs to get 3 Beats. And that comes out to 7,000 gems. So it's not a cheap list, unfortunately. But it's... I wouldn't say it's quote-unquote hard to get him. It's just you have to pay all the gems to do that. Obviously, Beat's a great card. Whenever you summon a monster for hire with his effect or with another effect, whenever you special summon a monster for hire, you get to add another monster for hire from your deck to your hand. That's really great. Whether it's on the first turn, gives you the extra the 5th card, or whether it's on the second turn, obviously it's a good effect. I'm going to skip over the boss monsters for a second, go on to Seal. I have 2 Seals. Obviously, Seal is great because whenever you summon a monster for hire with his effect or with another monster for hire's effect, you get to add a monster for hire from your graveyard to your hand. So it's kind of like similar to Beat, not quite as good, but similar. And then, moving on to Donpa and Recon. Everyone knows what these do. Donpa lets you blow up a face-up card. Recon lets you blow up a face-down card. Those are both good cards depending on the scenario. When I first started playing for hires, whenever I got Beat, I would immediately take Dyna, and Dyna is a good card. He just got set to 1. He is powerful. He's really easy to get onto the field. So I understand why they pushed him to 1. However, I think that a lot of times people overlook Wiz, and depending on the scenario, Wiz is actually even more useful. Wiz has a really high attack. It's hard to kill her. And also, her effect negation, her spell and trap negation, really gets you out of a lot of binds. Particularly, obviously I'm running Wall of Disruption in this list. Almost every single Duel Links deck runs Wall of Disruption. We'll get into that in a second. But when you're playing with Wiz, if you haven't used her effect this turn, you can attack fairly confidently because most people are only running 1 Wall of Disruption. Now, unfortunately, sometimes people have 2. So if you attack, they flip the Wall of Disruption, you use Wiz's effect, and they flip a second Wall of Disruption. Well, then you're out of luck. But I'd say, 90% of the time, they're not going to have a second Wall of Disruption, maybe even more. So Wiz is really helpful, not only for the battle phase, but also particularly against Amazonesses when they want to activate their Amazonas Onslaught. You use Wiz's effect, there goes their best card. Sometimes they don't have a second one waiting in the wings. So, Wiz really has been effective with the, as you get higher up the chain toward King of Games. Moving on to spells and traps. The first one is Cosmic Cyclone. Cosmic Cyclone comes from Galactic Origin. It is an ultra rare. This is probably the hardest card to get into the list. Galactic Origin is a really big set. I think it starts with like 150 packs or maybe 140. It's a big list. It's a big set rather. And then Cosmic Cyclone, there's only one of them. It's an ultra rare. It's hard to pull. So, you can obviously buy the entire set and then you'll get it. I don't know if I would do that. There's probably other similar cards, but I ran Cosmic Cyclone because I was lucky enough to draw it. So, if you can get it, or if you already do have it, it's a great one to have in this list. If not, it's not the end of the world, but it is really useful, especially when you're playing against someone like Amazonas. When they're throwing just one back row down, it's going to be Amazonas Onslaught almost always. Not necessarily. It's going to be Amazonas Onslaught or Wall Disruption. So when you can get that out of there, when you can banish that, you can attack without fearing that your monsters are going to be destroyed by Wall Disruption or banished by Amazonas Onslaught. So it's a good card to have if you can get rid of them. Going back, I'm going to skip over the Mayhems. Obviously, I'm not going to skip over them. We're running Mayhem. Everyone runs Mayhem. I only ran 2. I had a third in there, but having the 21 card deck, I just felt was not as... it was too slow. I think that having just... You really want to have just the 20, because usually with this list, you're only going to get to turn 3 or 4. You want to get the good cards when you get them, so as few as you can have in this list, the better. So I kept it strictly to 20. Going on to... I'm going to skip these 4 real quick. Straight Flush is a card that comes from Valkyrie's Rage. It's an pretty old card, but it's also a neutral card. It's a common, I guess you'd say. I don't know what the I think N is either normal or neutral. I'm going to call it common because that's the TCG term for it. But so Straight Flush comes from Valkyrie's Rage. It's pretty easy to obtain. You probably only are going to spend 500 or 1,000 gems to get it. And I think it's really useful, particularly in this in this competitive season when Amazonas have been so powerful. They're probably the strongest deck right now. So, and almost always their first turn they're dropping Amazonas Princess, getting Amazonas Onslaught from the deck, and then putting two other back row. So having Straight Flush, if you open that, you can throw it down and blow up their entire back row. And it's just great. Now, a lot of times I've noticed people are running Amazonas with Odeon because it is such a trap-heavy deck, and Odeon has the skill Endless Trap Hell, where it gives them one of their cards back and puts the other 2 back into the deck. But the thing about that is usually when you flip Straight Flush, you blow up all their back row. They use Endless Trap Hell, get Amazonas Onslaught back and throw it down. Well, then if you have either Cyclone or Recon on the field, or even Wiz, you don't have to worry about that Amazonas Onslaught, because when they flip it, you can either negate it, or you can banish it, or use Wiz, or use Recon to blow it up, or if they've already flipped it, you can use Dompa to blow it up. So really having only one back row is a lot more manageable. So Straight Flush is just a great card against the Amazonases. And against other decks, I've noticed. I mean, it's not as good against other decks, but I threw it in there because Amazon has been so prevalent right now. Then we have Wall Disruption. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, it's basically a staple in any deck. So it's just a good card. It does only, get... I'm going to say probably, 60 or so % of the time off. A lot of times it's going to get negated. Not a lot of times. Sometimes it's going to get negated, especially if you're playing other for hires. They're going to have that Wiz. They get it negated. Or if they have some other piece of back row removal or negation. But it is definitely worth having just to protect your weaker monsters for hire. But finally, I think probably the most useful card in this deck, especially this season, has been... Whoops, what is it doing to me? I must have deleted a card. Has been Madolche Knights. Now, if you don't know what this card does, basically when a monster effect is activated, if you have no monsters in your graveyard, you can negate that activation. Obviously, this is great against other for hires. If you're playing for hires and you're playing against for hires, and you open Madolche and a beat, you're going to be in good shape. And especially with 3 of each, you're almost always going to draw both in your first hand. So yeah, I'm going to say 75% of the time, you're going to have a beat and a Madolche in your opening hand. And that's great because, you throw down your beat, use his effect to summon another monster, you now have a third monster in your hand, and then you throw down Madolche. And that's a good opening move because, if they're playing Amazonas, they throw down Princess, they don't have the ability to get that onslaught into their hand because when they throw down Princess, you flip Madolche, negate your effect. Now they don't have onslaught. Excuse me. And then you also have another monster in your hand for backup for when next turn, even if they blow up beat or the one that you summoned, you actually have that monster in your hand for next turn. I've seen a lot of people, as soon as I flip my Madolche and negate their effect, they get really upset and they quit. So Madolche is just a really good card. It's I think it's a common, so I don't think people maybe pay attention to it as much as they should. But it comes from Burning Nova. It is like I said, it is a common, so it's pretty easy to get. You just drop about 2,000 gems. You'll probably have your whole battle set. But it's really great against both Amazonas and other for hire. And this deck was really designed to do that because it was because of how prevalent both have been this season. The last thing is just the character. I use Seto Kaiba with Beatdown. I'm thinking about changing to Yugimoto when the new ban list goes into effect. This list is actually ban list compliant, and it did pretty well, even against decks that aren't ban list compliant. So theoretically, once the new ban list drops, it's already dropped, but once it goes into effect, it'll be even better. So we'll see about that. But I'm thinking about switching to Yugimoto and using the skill The Tie That Binds. But I'm not sure if the trade-off in having all your monsters get the boost is the attack boost is worth losing the amount of attack boost you get from Beatdown. Even though Beatdown won't be giving your weaker monsters the boost, if you have, let's say, a Wiz and a Dyna on the board, then you're going to be getting 600 for both of them, and that's big. So that's big when you're let's say you're going up against a Blue Eyes, or even you're trying to play against other for hires and they have a Wiz. You got to get over that defense somehow. So having that 600 boost is going to be really, really helpful. So anyway, that's the list, guys. If you have any questions or if you have any suggestions how I can make it even better, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks a lot.